Hello, everyone. My name is Alexander Ermenkov. Today is 27th of June, 2023, and I'm continuing my series, Daily Reality with Alex. I would like to continue this series with my reality talks, where I'm constantly observing and constantly monitoring different principles, different ideas, different reality structures that I'm constantly using in my personal reality. And today I'm very enthusiastic with the new theme that I would like to present to you, which is strongly changed my life in the last 2 to 3 years. And it is the reality of actions, reactions, and interaction. I am a person that have been a Christian from 17 years old, and I was very strongly involved in the afterlife. I was a person that was not interested at all at what is happening in the normal reality through which we are living, because I was much more focused on and interested upon what is next. But what I realized that actually we as human beings, it doesn't matter who have what type of behind and afterlives and how we are considering what is going to happen based on our beliefs after we escape or go out of this reality. What I realized is why it doesn't matter what type of people we are, why it's important for all of us to interact with the reality in which we are right now in the moment. And it was so wonderful when I realized that I am to interact on a daily basis with the reality and to understand the action, to understand the reactions, to understand the interaction, and basically to understand what is happening behind the scene in reality. Then whatever type of faiths we have, whatever type of ideas we have about the afterlife and how everything is going to be once we leave what is already quite known to each of us, it is important, of course, but everyone can have its own opinion and choices, because anyhow, nothing about the afterlife can be validated right now in this reality. But what is important for me is to understand why are we all to interact in this reality, even if we are not interested just in money, just in success, just in overachieving, just in the things that normally are presented as chasing carrots before all of us. Not all of us are interested to chase all the different things that the materialistic world is trying to give to us. Not all of us are interested in wealth. Not all of us are interested in abundance. Not all of us are interested in fame. Not all of us want to be someone very famous in this reality. And a lot of us are just willing to live by, to pass by, not to be very much involved into anything, and just to enjoy, have some pleasures. But we want to be as humble as possible and to move out and to move away and to go to the whatever is next. And we are not so willing to entertain and to enjoy what is happening in the moment in our own personal daily reality. But once I realized that interaction is so important, because through the interaction with our daily reality, it is only then a possibility for all of us to understand the three questions to which we don't have the answer. We don't have the answer to where are we coming from. We can debate about this. We don't have the answer to what and who we are, and we don't have the answer to where we are going. But what I realized that actually the reality is the one that can give us the answers to these questions if we start to interact with it. And then what I realized by the way I am doing it every day in my personal daily reality is how the actions are being done. And of course, by the third law of Newton about the physical reality, we have understand and we have been conditioned to know that every reaction has the same force opposite reaction. But the problem with this is that in reality, it's not necessary to be so. First, reality is much more complex. Then reality doesn't consist only from the physical materiality. It doesn't consist only from the invisible part of the physical materiality, but it consists also from much more layers and much more realms. And then when we are in a position to go into action mode, it's very important to know and to observe these three phenomena. What are our actions? What are our reactions and what is triggering them? And what and why we are interacting? Are we interacting more than 1 week ago? And in how many areas we are allowing to ourselves to impact actually reality and how we are doing it. That's why I have positioned myself as a ruling reality coach, because all these three topics became of a big interest for me, because I have never been after them. I have never been willing to go and to chase the results of my actions. I'm not interested if I do all the right actions in reality and I achieve all the successes that are going to think in the mind of the other people that this is so wonderful, that I'm something special, and so on, since this is not so. But once I realized enthusiastically that if I learn to interact, if I learn to go into strong action mode, I can start understanding and comprehending not only me, the structure of reality starts to reveal before me, and I can see the invisible. I can understand what is not possible to be done if we are staying only into the material realm. And this is why I started to observe the actions, and what I have found out, nobody can actually tell us why exactly we are doing and where is the source of all our actions. But of course, by the reflection about the free will, because we know that there is something like a will, we cannot describe it exactly, but we know that to some extent, through our consciousness and our individualized part of the connectivity, we are able to make decisions. Then there is a big paradox, and the paradoxes that are in this reality actually opened me to start observing things that are not so easily observable. First of all, I realized that all our actions are based on our instincts, are based on our subconscious. Long term, what I found out, of course, by the help of a lot of people, by more research and observation, and by more deepening into the reality, is that basically we have a modus of operation, and we as human beings are doing by default programmable type of actions that are quite predictable because they are based on the archetypal structure and leanings that all of us have, and based on them we have different types of archetypes that are determining the way we are doing our actions and the way we are creating an impact in reality. The important thing about actions is that the more and more we understand not the actions themselves, not if they're correct or if they're the optimum one, but to understand why the source of these actions, which is inside of us, is leaning towards this specific way of expression. And of course, through actions, we are actually constantly expressing the essence of who we are. And by monitoring our actions, we are actually, through the reality reflection and seeing what our actions are doing, understanding more about who we actually are. And what I realize is that instead of waiting for the afterlife, we are given every moment, we are given the present moment just for that, to express, to interact, to monitor, to observe, to gather the awareness, and to know more about the consciousness that we actually are. And once I positioned myself in interaction with my own personal reality, everything started to change. All my actions are changing. All my interactions with my family, with my children, with my coworkers, with the people with which I collaborate are constantly changing to such an extent that now I'm enjoying much more relationships, much more interactions in so many areas of life that I am really starting to enjoy the way all that processes are forming around me. And I'm starting to enjoy that we are, all of us, actually interconnected with each other. Because if we don't realize this interconnectedness, we are not going to realize why it's important, all of our actions, not to be right or to be wrong, but to be expressing our essence, and to know when we are taking non-authentic or influenced by other actions, to start realizing what is coming from within us, from the deepness of our source, and what is just the so-called retranslating. And that's why in my website, you can go www.alexanderremenkov.com. You can download from free without any necessity of lead generation and giving me your emails or whatever, my book, Paradoxes of Life. And you're going to see there why all of us are constantly part of the generating of the reality that we are all experiencing. I know that a lot of us are acquainted with the theory of simulation, where the simulation requires some centralization and a source and agenda. But if we are actually more than 8 billion of us constantly generating our own common holographic reality, then all of our actions are creating interactions, are creating reactions, and are changing constantly our common holographic experience. And then the other thing which I found out about the actions is that opposite and paradoxically to the Newton law, once we do the action, it is not necessary immediately to have the reaction, and the reaction to come from the same source towards which our action was done. And if we ask ourselves, do we have reactions to all our actions? Yes, there are, but mostly they are not direct. They are working towards us indirectly, and many times not in direct correlation with the same personalities, because usually our actions are towards specific personalities, towards specific goals, towards specific agendas, towards specific intents that we have. And then once we understand the way the actions are working, we are going to learn how to use our focus and attention, not towards the end result, not towards the way we are doing the action, but we are going to put our focus and attention towards the interaction, towards the lasting effects that our daily actions in reality are creating. Once we stop going after the transactional and we start observing and looking at our own personal actions as long-term lasting seeds that are going to create their reaction maybe in 5 years, maybe in 10 years, maybe in 20 years. It's not necessary every good, for example, that we are expressing into the reality to be returned back to us in the same year, in the same decade, in the same way that we have done it. That's why the only thing we are to do with our actions is to constantly invest by emptying our goodness from the inside out towards the physical matter reality. And then it's not our job how the reactive forces are going to compensate what we have given away. And that's why this interactional and involvement principle, once we open towards it, it is starting to create a huge difference, because in this day and age, more and more we are going into closing ourselves within ourselves, and we want to not interact with anything or anybody outside of our inner circles, and we don't want to enter into different type of circumstances. For sure, we don't want to initiate anything. We have been conditioned and learned from the societal, educational, governmental structures that we are going to give away and to outsource our generative power towards different egregorical institutions that are going to do a lot of the things for us in order the common good for all society to be averagely spread among all of us. But once we take responsibility and once we decide to start focus and direct with intent our actions towards really impacting reality in whatever it brings us on a daily basis, then the game starts to change. Then when we start observing our reactional processes, how the outside reality is affecting us on a daily basis, we have the two options: or to go into direct reaction, or to start working with transmutational processes, because all of us have heard that the energy is not lost, but it is transformed from one energy to another. Nothing in the material world is lost, but it is transformed from one type of forms or elements into others. But there is so much more about this reality, and if we go only from the fundamental material way of thinking, we are going to miss maybe approximately 99% of all the potential and what is actually possible. And because all of this, once we go into this action, reaction, and interaction, observation, and focusing on these processes, we are going to start noticing that they are not the important part. The important part is what is happening in the between. When we are deconstructing duality, we are understanding that neither the good, neither the bad, focusing and giving energy to it is enough, but what is happening in the between? What are my actions and reactions towards the so-called bad? And what are my actions and reactions towards the so-called good? And what is my interaction with everything in duality that is trying to constantly grab my attention and my discernment processes? And once we realize that our actions are going far beyond the physical matter reality, far beyond the concept of now, and far beyond by the realm of forms, then it makes sense why the human beings are going to be judged, going to take accountable responsibility for every actions that we make. It only means that every action that we take is creating a nuclear type of potential force that is creating change and is affecting everything in reality. And if it's so, it also gives us much more enthusiasm to start really entering the action modes. Once we start understand the deepness that goes before making an action, then it is going to be much more easier for all of us to start allowing ourselves to make more and more authentic subconscious actions, because they are much more genuine than if we rely on the conditioned mind to try to navigate through what type of actions are going to be liked in the physical matter reality, because then we are going to enter into the reflection of what something or someone or institution are going to say about our actions. The only thing that matters about our actions is what each one of us, authenticity, intimacy, and intuition is saying about our actions. And I will give you one example where I was to choose between maybe 4 or 5 different investitions, which one is going to be priority for me. But the moment through my intuition, I felt that I can enter actually in both of the 5 investitions without any problem if I'm just relying on the intuition and not the mind and not the environment and not what the outer reality is going to propose and suggest to me. From this moment forward, I just open myself towards expressing a reality where all these 5 investigations are possible to happen simultaneously. And all my actions in the moment are working into a direction where I'm not putting the limit on deciding to prioritize and to choose only one. So many times we are trying to constantly choose between 2 options. Why are we not allowing to ourselves 5 options simultaneously? Why are we not allowing to ourselves 3 options simultaneously? Because we think that to choose is always between duality. I can choose this or that. And it is very easy to put ourselves, to a comfortable mode where we are to choose between 2 things, where from our perspective in the moment, it's the easy choice. But once we start to go into maturation, it doesn't anymore matter just to make choices in order to have easy life. what starts to matter is why this specific choice of action and expression I'm so eager and enthusiastic to make and to start observing what wonderful and powerful lasting action it is going to create into the physical matter reality. From where is the source of this specific desire coming? And what are the manifestational expressions it's going to take into the realm of forms? Then we are not anymore competing with each other. Who is going to have the better actions? Who is going to have the rightful actions? Who is going to have the bigger actions? Who is going to be the most impactful one? No, this is not what the competition is for. The competition is only for who is going to express more of his uniqueness or her uniqueness into the physical matter reality, and only this is mattering. And this is what I found out, and this is what I'm after, and this is how I'm positioning myself toward actions in the moment. When I'm observing the reactions or the things that normally are triggering the human beings, for example, if we think about the financial economical situation in the moment, that is, of course, all the time the same. It's all the time worrying, it's all the time negative, and so on and so on. But if we are reacting towards it according to what it's expected to be the reaction, we are going to go into a retranslation mode that is not going to create authenticity. That's why the source of all our action should be always from within out. And when we are making a reactional responses to the outside reality, so many times they're going to be the opposite of what is expected from us. And only then the firepower of the intuition and the instinct, but not of survival, but the instinct of the uniqueness and connection to the source is going to give us a totally non-understandable way of reacting that is going to give us a really interesting actions and reactions. For example, when I decided 2-3 years ago to start working with my weight and working with my health, I was thinking to do it just with one purpose, to be an example for my children, and so on and so on. Later on, I have put additional goals, additional anchors into my reality. And now, from the perspective of my decisions from 3 or 3 years ago, now more and more I understand what I'm building upon and why this is aligning with my long-term 2030 or 2040 or 2050 goals. And little by little, the so-called irrational actions from 2-3 years ago are now creating benefits upon which I'm stepping today and are creating much more opportunities for me. So once we start envisioning that our actions of today are the building blocks of our tomorrow's environment, then no longer, at least for me, I'm going to retranslate what is offered to me. But I'm much more going to make my focus and attention working towards my uniqueness and authenticity, which I'm building as an ecosystem of expression towards the future. And then it's very easily, because little by little, in this way, our actions are becoming our own preconditioning for our future successes. And only if we take seriously this opportunity, this potential, this possibility to have actions that can become the building blocks of our future, only then we are going to understand the principle of action, reaction, and interaction. Because nothing in this reality can happen without interaction. And the beautiful thing is that all of us have this transmuting power that is not coming from the realm of forms, through where we can extract genuine actions towards creating a unique future. And then it's not more about law of attraction. It's not more about manifestation. It is more and more about the human being. It is more and more about authentic being. It is more and more about each of us uniqueness and freedom of expression of who we actually are. And then instead of trying to copying each other, we are actually entering the mode of cooperation, the mode of support, because it's beneficial for each of us to encourage each other to take authentic and unique actions coming from within. And that's why I'm very interested in interacting with reality in order to start realizing and understanding more about what I am, where I'm from, and where I'm going. And then nowadays, when I'm interacting with this reality, it is giving me so much back, but not about the physical materiality, but about what is going to happen in the afterlife. So we are in a very interesting paradox where today, instead of wasting our time for what's coming, the more we are interacting today into the physical materiality, the more we are going to know, to feel, to understand, to know the source, to know what's coming, to be prepared for what is to be lasting. So I encourage all of us to constantly use any minute that we have towards these actions, reactions, and interactions, because they are the building blocks for our future realms of existence. And for sure, we have been given this possibility in order to express this type of uniqueness. And I remember when I decided that I'm not anymore going to wait for the action to mature, to wait for the action to be thought quite enough, and to procrastinate at least 2-3 months before taking the actions. Now I'm more and more encouraging myself to make the actions instead of and in spite of all of this. Because the more and more I'm leaning to my intuition, to my instinctual archetypal leanings, the more the expression of my actions is actually creating such an impact that everything I'm doing after taking the action is just to observe and to monitor. And the action is doing all its job. So it's like the exponential power. The big, most hard part is to let the action out of ourselves forward into the physical materiality. From this moment forward, because it's important to understand that action is going through several realms of reality simultaneously, but it needs for sure to enter even the material reality. That's why it's important to write down the thoughts, to write down our dreams, to start planning, but not only in our mind, but to make concrete material steps and actions towards what we are waiting to manifest. And then, of course, there is one more big, not only mistake, but misunderstanding, that our actions should be so perfect, so powerful, so mighty, that from the first action, everything should be done. But we, of course, know about this allegory and this saying that an elephant is eaten bite by bite. And it's the same with manifestation. It requires action after action after action after action. We can never do anything in reality with just one perfect, wonderful, powerful, mighty action. It may take 1,000 steps, 1,000 times to adapt and to go forward towards specific action and end time manifestation. But the important thing is to start the actions, to create the flow of actions towards a specific desire, movement, flow, manifestation, anchor in reality. And of course, then there is so much more we can speak about the reactional type of interaction, where we need to understand how the powers and the energies are working in order not to be stuck into specific limitations and to not be able to escape the egregorial type of magnetic interactions. But once we realize that the source of the actions are to be coming out of us, then every reaction that is expected from us is part of a bigger game, and we are to do it in such a way that we always disbalance these energetic magnetical forces towards even transmuting them and creating much more freedom. I have been reflecting for long as a Christian about why once we are hit on one side, instead of reacting and hitting back with the same force, intention, and so on, paradoxically, to give actually the other cheek, but not to go into reactional mode. This is creating disbalance in the expectation, disbalance in the projections. And if you want to learn from the great manipulators of today, from the great scammers of the day, if we want to learn from how the elites are managing all of us as society, we are to understand the action, reaction, and the solution principle that they are using in order to manipulate and to create environment towards a specific reaction through which they catch us into specific egregorial energetical fields. And once we understand these three powers, action, reaction, and interaction, because we cannot escape the triggers of today. We cannot escape what is offered, but we can decide if we are going to enter into this magnetism or we are just going to pass. So thank you for watching today. I'm personally strongly investing into actions, reactions, and interaction, and I enjoy doing it with such a great enthusiasm and extent. And if I have kindled a very little sparkle in you to not be afraid of actions, it is going to be great. You can always follow me in YouTube, in Facebook, and I am doing this type of videos throughout all of 2023. And very soon I'm going to announce free of charge attendee possibility for entering my program Ruling Reality Basics for at least 20 of you during the month of July, so that you can enjoy the basic structure of understanding why reality is working the way it is and why I'm so successful, not just in creating money, not just in working with reality, but I'm so successful with knowing how to express myself and how to chase and go after what is lasting and in preparation for what is to come. So thank you for watching. Enjoy your reality, be active, be interactive, and be reactive in a transmutual way. Bye-bye.